Hey community of awesome, what's up? This boy Sagarmalkar. Welcome to the channel once again and welcome to a brand new episode. Okay, today we are shooting the 6th episode of In Conversation With. And of course, this is the new virtual world that we are living in, and therefore it is the virtual segment that we are doing. When we started this segment, we always wanted to bring you people from different walks of life who can share their journey, who you can learn from and improve your personal skills and your mindset and explore different avenues in life. And today I have a very interesting guest. He started as a teacher, then he went into the media world, and then now what he's doing today is very interesting because his business, I don't see it as a business, I see it as a social entrepreneurship kind of a thing, where he is working with the youth of the day very closely and impacting the youth very greatly. You have seen the thumbnail, so there's no suspense as of who is the guest. Today, the guest on the show is Nikhil Taneja, sir, and let's just, without any further ado, just let's connect with him and talk with him. Hi, Nikhil, sir. Thank you for being on the show.
Thank you so much, Sagar, for having me, man. It's such a kind introduction. I'm so happy to be here. मेरे भाई का नाम भी actually सागर है, छोटे भाई का
Oh,
नाम. So,
wow.
so every time I say Sagar, I both feel a lot of warmth and also like weird कि मैं किसी और से बात कर रहा हूँ.
Awesome, sir. Yuva has been something I have been following for a while now. In fact, you have been someone I have been following since you were associated with Film Companion. In fact, yesterday Anupama ma'am was on the show,
Oh,
and
how cool!
we were talking with her about how you had associated with you and all of your amazing TV show segment. And I've been following you since then, your recommendations, and being a film student, film buff, I've been loving your recommendations. But since then you have gone to build Yuva, which is doing such amazing things right now. So
Thank
I'd
you.
like to ask you, what's the journey been with Yuva, and what are you trying to do at it? What's your vision with Yuva? Where do you see it going? And all of that. Maybe you can
Um,
start from your early journey when you were a teacher, and maybe before that also, where this comes from.
so I haven't actually started off as a teacher. That's something that I did on the side.
Right.
I'm an मतलब cliche is I'm an engineer. I think that अब तो वो surprising भी नहीं होगा media industry में. You could be talking to literally anybody and when they say पहले पहले
True.
अजीब लगता था कि जरा अच्छा तुम engineer how did you end up here. अब तो कोई पूछता भी नहीं है. अब जो है ना वो question ही valid नहीं है. वो हाँ make
Right.
sense. तुम engineer
Right.
ही हो सकते हो और क्या हो सकते हो. So I did NIT. I did computer engineering from NIT Kurukshetra,
Right.
and I used to write a lot at that time. In fact, I've been writing from the time that I was a very young. When I was very young, when I was in school, when I was 14. From that time onwards, I've been writing. I used to write for a magazine called Young Times, which is a part of the Khaleej Times media group. I've grown up abroad. I've grown up in Bahrain. So उस टाइम से ना मैं interviews कर रहा था लोगों के. So my first interview, like, I mean, it is unfortunate, but my first ever interview at the age of 14 was Sajid Khan. Not something that I like saying out loud now, but it is what it is. Since then I've actually interviewed everyone from like Junoon to, Michael Schumacher and Shah Rukh Khan, even before I
Wow.
actually
Hmm.
graduated from college. So, and these are all like, I'm not talking about email interviews, I'm talking about like meeting people and
Right,
like
right, right.
literally spending time with them.
Yeah.
So it's been a so when I started my journey in Bombay, which is when I was 21 and I'd finished and I'd just graduated from engineering college, I actually started it having about 7 to 8 years of writing experience for as a freelancer from the time I was a young kid. So I started off actually in Hindustan Times. I used to work with HT Cafe as an
Hmm.
entertainment journalist.
Hmm.
I did that for about two and a half years. Then I did 3 years, I think, three and a half years. Yeah, actually, yeah. Then MTV India for another 3 years, where I was first the editor of MTV India's online, website
Don't
and
tell me you
email.
worked on roadies.
I have not worked on roadies. I have, which is, I swear, I am ready to testify that in court. मेरा कुछ लेना देना नहीं है उस शो के साथ. Although I will be honest, in the spirit of honesty, I will tell you that the reason that I wanted to join MTV was Roadies. Not because, not the Roadies that Roadies became, but the
Yeah, yeah.
Roadies that it
No, but it
started
was
off
very
as.
cool.
Okay.
The first
Yeah.
season was very
the
cool.
the first
First,
two three
second
seasons were
season.
actually
Yeah,
really really
yeah.
awesome and exciting
Right,
for any young person, and that's
right.
why I was like, yeah, ek din na main MTV. And in fact, the interesting thing is MTV hired me also because when I was in Hindustan Times, I used to actually write a lot of bad reviews of Roadies and be like कि क्या हो गया MTV को, क्या हुआ करता था. So they then I applied to it. And they were like, तुम तो गाली निकालते, तुम क्या अप्लाई करे? मैंने कहा because I want to come there and make you better. So
Right,
I don't know why they agreed. They thought, I don't know.
right,
They must have looked at me and be like, कौन है ये? I was as smart समझता, but somehow they just said, okay, I like the
right.
passion for MTV, so come join, let's make it better. And yeah, so I actually worked on Coke Studio, the first ever Coke Studio that we did in India.
Wow.
I did write a Roadies blog, but I will not give you any more information than that at this point.
We'll find it anyways.
I am not revealing anything further. Ended up then becoming an on-air producer, where I created a show when I was around 24 years of age called Reality Stars. You will not find any
Right.
information on that show on the internet, and there is a very good reason for it, because it's a terrible show. But I got to create it, produce it, write it as a 24-year-old, which was pretty exciting for me at that time. And then I ended up doing 6 films at MTV, which were with Anurag Kashyap, Anurag Basu, Shujit
Wow.
Sarkar, Nikhil
Wow.
Advani, Abhinay Deo, and who am I forgetting? Abhinay Deo, Nikhil Advani, Shujit Sarkar, Anurag Basu, Anurag Kashyap. Who am I forgetting? There's one more, Rohin Sappi. Yeah,
Oh,
so
okay.
these 6 people ke saath we made this thing called MTV Films, where we made 6 1-hour films, which led me to Yashraj Films, where I
Right,
made where I became the head of content and development for
right.
Yuvaa Films, where we made web shows. Out of the first 10 web shows that were made in India, 4 were made by us. I produced them, including Bang Baja Barat, Man's World, Ladies Room, Papu and Papa. So yeah,
Hmm.
that's been the journey that I've had as a content and media content creator and a media person for about 10 years from
Right.
the time I started off. On the side is what I started when I started teaching in 2010. Because and
Oh,
this
okay.
is true, because interns आते थे और हम HT के अंदर और जो ना वो BMM पढ़ के आते थे, और मैं
Hmm.
फिर जो ना और उनको लिखना किसी को नहीं आता था, and I used to be like, तुम BMM कर रहे हो और तुम्हें जो
कर
ना
रहे हो?
मतलब लिटरली स्ट्रक्चर नहीं पता, मतलब राइटिंग का क्या मतलब what are they teaching you then, and then I realized that they are not really teaching anything that has any practical application. So मैंने कहा मुझे पढ़ाना है. Why? Because I used to really enjoy, even as a senior in engineering college, I used to really enjoy like interacting with juniors and teaching them. मैंने कहा try करते हैं.
Hmm.
Fortunately, I ended up in one of the best BMM colleges in Bombay called Jai Hind, where I taught
Right.
for 7 years. Then I taught
Hmm.
news reporting, so I actually taught journalism even when I was doing MTV and Yashraj.
Right.
But so to the question that you asked, to answer it now finally after all of this, is my journey with to Yuva actually started with me as a teacher. Even though I used to do that on the weekends and weekdays, I was pretty much a content creator. And weekends
Hmm.
also, मतलब सच्ची में from Kandivali to Churchgate, I used to go every week for
Right.
7 years. For 7 semesters, I would say.
Right.
And so it was really literally a long journey. But what I so I realized very soon that young people were interacting with me in a very different way than they were perhaps interacting with other teachers, because I was to begin with, I was not much older to them. And B, what I realized was that I started, even when I was teaching, right? I would obviously have the theory and I would have your notes and everything, but I just genuinely liked, hearing them out. I genuinely liked having discussions where I would just be like, okay, here's a question. Now let's have a discussion on this. And I used to really want, and every kind of student, even the student, like cliche groups होते हैं हर जगह पर, groupism होता है. मैं हर group के अंदर जो है ना घुस के बोलता था, चल तुमको भी बोलना पड़ेगा. And it was fascinating, right? And then what happened, it was I mean, like, the biggest discovery of my life is when you give young people the respect of being heard,
Hmm.
they just completely change as human beings.
True.
कि हमारी कंट्री में ना, मुझे रियलाइज हुआ है कि यंग लोगों के पास ना बहुत कुछ होता है बोलने को, बट कोई सुनने वाला नहीं होता. Every young person has so much they want to say, but there's just hardly anybody who wants to listen. Your parents don't listen, your teachers don't listen, your peers have their own problems, so they don't listen. So who do you kind of ever express to? And while what I started off was really like you know classroom specific, syllabus specific discussions, but the fact that I gave them the respect of being heard, they would start opening up to me outside of classes also, and they'd be like, "मेरे पास ये problem है, I just wanted to chat with you." And earlier I thought कि ये सारे teachers का होता होगा, and then I realized कि मतलब literally I was the only teacher that they would approach with their problems. And I realized they have so many problems. And here's, like again, just to kind of get to the final point, but here's what I realized as a content creator: we were making films and content on maybe two things we understood about young people, right? We realized कि हमको मतलब when you think about it ना, बॉलीवुड में until like very recently सिर्फ दो टाइप की फिल्में होती थी. यंग लोग ना सिर्फ दो टाइप की चीजें करते थे, या वो प्यार में पड़ते थे या एक दूसरे का मर्डर करते थे. Like
I so knew
genuinely when
you
you think,
were going to say
yeah,
this.
like that is genuinely really the way that Bollywood has operated now for the longest time. I kid you not, Sagar. I have been in meetings with the development meetings where like literally over 100, 150, 200 writers have pitched to me, and in every one of the pitch, like they like I the script themes would be कि एक अच्छा ये है एक रोम कॉम, अच्छा ये है एक हॉरर रोम कॉम, ये है एक्शन रोम कॉम, ये है कॉमेडी रोम कॉम, ये है ट्रिप रोड ट्रिप रोम कॉम. एंड आई एम जस्ट लाइक मतलब कि क्या यंग लोग सिर्फ प्यार में पड़ते हैं, मतलब और कुछ करते ही नहीं क्या जिंदगी के अंदर. लाइक दे जस्ट वुड हैव नो, दैट इज द वे दैट पीपल वर पिचिंग बिकॉज दैट्स व्हाट दे थॉट दैट पीपल वांटेड. So anyway, I realized that we don't have a genuine clue about what young people are going through because सारा content ना बॉम्बे के अंदर ना अपने ऑफिस के अंदर बैठकर बना रहे होते हैं, सोच रहे होते हैं ये अच्छा आएगा, ये अच्छा लगेगा लोगों को, ये इंडिया को पसंद आएगा. Whereas I just feel like we have had literally no idea what India really wants because we have never met India. We don't actually step out of Bombay to kind of listen to young people, or even within Bombay कहाँ सुनते हैं young लोगों को, उनकी प्रॉब्लम समझ आए, फिर पता चले कि मतलब कि बहुत ही and you see the OTT platforms doing that, right? Like they've just now started picking up stories that really talk about a range of issues that feature
Hmm.
different parts of India. So
Right.
so that's really where I realized after a very long time at Yashraj, where we did quite a bit of we found quite a bit of success with socially conscious content that we created, whether it was Man's World, which was about gender equality, or Ladies Room, which was a feminist show, or Papu and Baba, which was about sex education, or Six Pack Band, which was a transgender pop group. All of them, just were huge hits. And I realized that यार ये हो सकता है, that it's not content or social impact do not necessarily need to be two different things. And there are a lot of things that young people in the country and the world are going through that we don't understand, and we must find a way to talk about these issues. So even though I was doing pretty well at Yashraj, I decided to take a different step and direction in life. Another lot of other things happened in the meanwhile, which I'll probably sure we'll talk about at some point. But where I thought that I need to start something where we truly wholeheartedly listen to young people and represent their issues authentically. I wanted to create a platform that makes young people feel less alone. I
Hmm.
genuinely think young people in the country are feeling more alone than ever before because no one understands them and no one listens to them. And ये बहुत लंबा conversation है, but just to put it down in like a couple of sentences.
Hmm.
And I really wanted to create a platform that just gives them that respect of being heard, and create content that will make them feel यार कि हाँ हमारी कहानियां बाहर आ रही हैं, और हमारे the issues that we are going through, there is a platform that talks about it. The things that we are facing, there is somebody who's willing to really listen and represent that. And that's where really Yuva came from.
Right. So when you were thinking of doing something like this, what came to your mind? How do you do this? Because yes, as you said, it seems amazing that you want to do something like this where you want to talk with the youth. But how do you do it? How do you do it? What did you think were the viable options, and how did you choose what you did?
So here's the process also, right? Really, when we started Yuva, the process was the way that has been a process, has been my process, even as a teacher or a content creator, which is what I said, right? Listening is super important. So in my class, I started this thing called the Kindness Project, which was
Hmm.
really a project that I used to do at the end of the semester, where I would tell that, ki all of you have as young people judge each other. वो पता है हर क्लास के अंदर सारे बच्चे एक
Hmm.
दूसरे को जज करते हैं. और एंड बच्चे मैं बोल रहा हूँ मतलब आई वाज ओल्डर सो दैट्स व्हाई यंग लोग
Right.
एक दूसरे को जज करते हैं. एंड आई वाज जस्ट
Hmm.
लाइक कि you guys, and I feel terrible about that because I think all of you are phenomenal young people and you have so much inside of you that you want to say and express. There's so much you go through, there's so much you know and understand, and yet you kind of while you understand obviously yourselves, you don't make an effort to kind of understand anybody else around you because maybe you might be going through something, or just because you don't care that others have this opinion of you. And I just thought that it's important that you know you are more than the opinion that people have of you, and people deserve to know that. So we started this. So kindness project was really about young people, giving every young person in my classroom an opportunity to have 5 minutes where they kind of tell their story and their truth. Who are they? What is the
Wow.
story that they have?
Wow.
What is the truth that they have in their life? And it became, I mean, it changed my life. I don't know. I mean,
Hmm.
I do know that it changed a few of theirs as well, but it certainly changed my life because the kind of things that my students would speak of, in this project, from the perhaps the proudest moment of my life is when a student of mine came out in my class, decided that my class is the right platform and the safe space that he needed to come
Wow.
out to the world as gay.
Wow.
There been students who have spoken about depression, anxiety, drug addiction, sexual assault, sexual harassment, domestic violence, and these are, I mean, imagine how difficult that is to just admit to yourself, and to say that in a
Absolutely.
class of 50 to 60 students,
And
uh, you
especially
know
with teenagers, who are not ready to be vulnerable
yeah,
at all, and
yeah,
to
yeah.
let, to just pour out is so hard with, you know the youth and the teenage. And I think that's amazing. What you did was amazing right there.
No,
Yeah,
so I
please
mean, again,
continue.
I didn't know that what it would turn out to be. It मतलब I mean I'm very fortunate यार. मैं वही कर रहा हूँ सागर. मुझे पता नहीं था what this would be. It was an accidental day that I kind of said. एक दिन बस मैंने कहा कि आज हम लोग पढ़ाई नहीं करेंगे. एक बैच
Hmm.
को मैंने बोला आज मुझे जो ना तुम्हें सुनना है, बिकॉज मुझे पता नहीं तुम लोग इतने इंटरेस्टिंग हो, बट
Hmm.
तुम एक दूसरे जज करते हो. I see dissonance in this class, but I don't see solidarity. I don't see camaraderie. I don't see the warmth that I
Right.
think you guys should have for each other. and
Right.
and literally just said, oh, every one of you needs to now. I just want you to take a deep breath for 2 minutes. Don't speak and think of, if you had to kind of tell everybody around you that one thing that they don't know about you, what would that be? And from
Wow.
there it started, and then literally like year on year. I mean, by the final year of the final bachelor I taught, I kid you not, there are students who have taken journalism instead of advertising because they wanted to do this class. Because they were like, yeah, this will be the final opportunity that I've needed all my life to express myself. And
Wow.
that
I'm
is
getting
how much
goosebumps.
that is how
Yeah.
much young people need to express themselves. पता ही नहीं होता है,
Yeah.
सुनते ही नहीं हम लोग. uh, so really when you was also started, it was again the presumption wasn't कि मुझे पता है कि मैं 7 साल पढ़ा चुका हूँ, मुझे पता है. It was like,
Hmm.
यार मुझे इंडिया की यूथ को reach out करना है. So we did this thing called the Yuvaa Roadshow of kindness,
Hmm. Hmm.
where my idea was what we did in one class.
Right.
Could I scale that and do that in every in different colleges in perhaps one talk, and which was pretty much like really difficult as a hypothesis because it would take me like 4 महीने पढ़ाकर मैं trust gain करता था young अपने students का, and then we
True.
would create a safe space. But then
Hmm.
this was like a challenge ki, can I in 1 hour of a lecture or a talk get young people to feel heard enough for them to want to express themselves, or to create a safe space in an hour. Fortunately, you know I mean, I don't know. Fortunately, it just worked, man. We went last year in 2019, we went to 70, 75 colleges across the country to around
Wow.
25, 30 cities.
Wow.
I mean, across the country. And yeah, I've met now
Wow.
overall in the last 2 years, now I've gone to over 100 colleges. I've been to over 40 cities. I've met over 10,000 young people.
I
Uh, you
mean,
know,
you say 100 colleges, but I can't even imagine the number of students in one college. And,
मैं
to
विसिंगुट से भी आया
assume,
हुआ हूँ.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
I've come.
I've seen your that recorded lecture. But, to touch so many people directly is amazing. But I'd like to interrupt you there and ask
Yeah.
you that, you start when you started it, did you think it like a business? Were you thinking of it as a business ki road show karunga? Because I don't see the revenue stream anywhere there.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
I don't think you started as a business. What were you looking at? Were you looking at it as an NGO? What was it like?
So I'll be honest with you. I mean, it was always meant to be a business because again, I think the
Hmm.
only way to scale problems
Something.
really, yeah, is to try and make it a business, because then only
Right.
can you solve it at scale. You can solve a
Right.
problem in a grassroots way, perhaps with
Hmm.
non-profits and NGOs, unless of course you are a major non-profit like Gates Foundation or
Hmm.
Save the Children, or
Yeah.
the big ones that exist.
Hmm.
But outside of that, I think a business really can help you scale the problems that you're trying to solve, scale the solutions to the problems that you're trying to solve.
Hmm.
um, but I wanted to start as a content company first,
Hmm.
just a long form content company, because that's the thing that my partners also, for example, Anand and Amrit, they're both filmmakers,
Hmm.
and we had made Bang Baja Barat together.
Hmm.
We had made Pappu and Papa together, and
Right.
they were huge hits. And we kind of thought that perhaps if we just continue making long form content and web shows, maybe that would be the business model for us. And then
Hmm.
the Yuva Roadshow would be the offline extension of that model.
Hmm.
Except
So
that when
was the roadshow monetized?
No, so I'll come to that.
Yeah.
Except the problem ये हुआ जब तक हमने start किया था ना ये, तब तक OTTs आ गए थे, and
Hmm.
suddenly the web series model, which Y Films and TVF and Filter Copy at that time had started off with,
Hmm. Hmm.
suddenly became just unsustainable to do on YouTube.
Right. Right.
And our thing was to create our own IPs and create our own content. And
Hmm.
we suddenly were like, shit, अब क्या करेंगे, OTT आ चुका है, और they
Hmm.
are throwing some crazy money, and we didn't have that kind of investments or monies to
Hmm.
put in. And we didn't want to start, we didn't want to be a production house. We hadn't started this
Hmm.
to again go to the easiest thing for us to would have been, because I mean, Anand produced a film for Netflix called Love per Square Foot. Amrit and
Hmm.
Anand are doing a show called Bandish Bandits that's going to launch next
Hmm.
month with
Hmm.
Amazon Prime.
Right.
So we had the ins on the biggest platforms, but we didn't want to go that route. So we thought, okay, let's probably do a little more grassroots. Let's start with the
Hmm.
Instagram page, and let's see
Hmm.
where we can kind of go with it. Let's start getting short format content, and
Hmm.
देखते हैं क्या होगा. And the first roadshow was really done as our own investment, because again,
Hmm.
we didn't want to even populate the Instagram page with things that we want to talk about. We
Hmm.
wanted to talk about the things that young people wanted to talk about.
People want to talk about,
So,
right?
so the first roadshow was really the money that we had raised for the company that we put in. The 75 colleges that we went to first were really on our dime. But the kind of understanding we got from there led to a couple of viral videos that we did on Instagram. One
Hmm.
was called Dear Auntie, another was called Talk to Them.
Right.
Led
Hmm.
us to having partnerships with Instagram. In fact, Instagram
Hmm.
India is right now the biggest partner we have. And the
Wow.
roadshow that we did this year was
Hmm.
in partnership with them. They've paid for it.
Hmm.
And I'm so fortunate that we have the backing of Instagram India at this point. We have worked with now companies like Amazon Prime, HDFC, Durex,
Hmm. Hmm.
Save the Children, some of the
Right.
biggest, again, names in their own respective fields,
Right.
on creating socially conscious and socially impactful content. So we are doing the offline as well, and we are doing an online as well. Yeah, and I think we're just getting started.
But with the Yuva Roadshow, it is non-monetized on the consumer's end. It is monetized for you by the sponsors, right? Is it also monetized by the like? Does the college students do the college students have to pay you to attend the show?
No, of
No,
course not.
right?
No.
And
It's
that is what
completely.
is important, I think. Yeah,
Yeah. We are not
right.
even like all the content that we're creating or anything that we're kind of doing for students. The intent is never to charge money from them, yeah? Because
Right.
again, really, the whole idea is to create, to help them to make their lives better,
Hmm.
and versus, yeah. I mean, again, we want to be as accessible as possible to young people.
Hmm.
We want to understand them. We want to listen to them. We want to
Hmm.
partner with them on whatever we possibly could.
Right.
But yeah, that's not the business model that we have
Right.
of charging
Yeah.
money from them.
Nikhil sir, one thing that I think, you have understood very well is the young India, because, you have had the privilege of meeting people and young people from different parts of the country, the majority of the country, and that also from the different parts of it. So I'd like to ask you, what do you see when you meet them are some of the major problems that these people are facing, the young India is
So
facing?
बहुत issues हैं यार. It's very unfortunate. First of all, yes, it is an absolute privilege, honestly, to kind of
Mm.
get to meet young people and so many young people across the country, and meet a cross section of society, a cross section of class structures that we have, socioeconomic structures. So we have gone to, from IITs to AIMS to NITs and
Wow.
NIFTs, to private colleges to government colleges. We have kind of covered like really like cross section of arts, commerce, science, law. मतलब हर टाइप के कॉलेज के गए हैं हम, हर टाइप के young person we have met. And it's been an honor that so many of them have trusted us with what they've gone through. And okay, I mean, there's so many issues, man. I mean, it's really unfortunate that our society, and I mean, what I've realized, Agar, is that when you listen, when you understand the issues that young people are facing, you kind of understand India as a whole.
Hmm.
You understand what
Right.
India is. कि एक बारी समझ आ जाना कि यार ये यंग पर्सन अपने घर पे ये फेस कर रहा है, तुम्हें समझ आता है उसका घर क्या है, तुम्हें समझ आ जाता है उसकी कम्युनिटी क्या है, उसकी सोसाइटी क्या है,
Hmm.
उसका स्ट्रक्चर क्या है, and then you kind of understand India at large, right?
Right.
So like, okay, so to begin with, I think the biggest challenge that almost every young person is struggling with is parenting, right? In our
Hmm.
country, parenting is it is a challenge, and I'm not shitting on parents. I don't want to shit on parents. I have complete empathy for them as well. But कहीं ना हमारा patriarchal structure has been such that पेरेंट्स को बोला गया है कि पेरेंटिंग एक तरीका होता है, कि
Hmm.
जहां पर ना तुम डिसाइड करते हो तुम्हारे बच्चे क्या चाहता है. Your kid doesn't have any role to play
Right.
in that large sense of what they should be doing in their life. The parent decides the destiny of the child pretty much when they're born. Whether this if it's a boy, वो बड़ा होके पैसा कमाएगा, इंजीनियर बनेगा. लड़की है तो बड़े होके चलो जो करना करे, बड़े होके शादी करनी है ना उसको, अच्छे लड़के के साथ अच्छे घर में शादी करनी है उसको. And so gender boxes are kind of put in as very soon as the kids are
As soon as
born.
you are born.
Pretty much as soon as you're born, even the decisions of लड़के किस कलर की कपड़े पहनेंगे, लड़कियां किस कलर के कपड़े पहनेंगी, लड़का
Toys.
टॉयज क्या होगा, लड़के कौन से लड़के अच्छा क्रिकेट खेलेंगे या स्पोर्ट्स करेंगे, या लड़कियां डांस करेंगी, या फिर कुछ और हॉबी हो जाएगी उनके लिए, कुकिंग जल्दी करा दो. Your video is broken. So
Yeah, so parenting.
yeah, so I mean, these issues exist at such an elementary level of a society, right? And it's not, as I said, उनको भी इनके साथ भी यही हुआ है, और उनके साथ भी यही हुआ है, so every so yeah, so I mean I've seen and उनके साथ भी यही हुआ है, पेरेंट्स के साथ भी यही हुआ है, उनके पेरेंट्स के साथ भी यही हुआ है. उनको हम लोगों ने एक पेट्रियार्कल स्ट्रक्चर क्रिएट कर दिया है, नॉट जस्ट इंडिया के अंदर बट पूरे वर्ल्ड के अंदर ये स्ट्रक्चर क्रिएटेड है. बट इंडिया के अंदर पर्टिकुलरली बहुत स्ट्रांग है, वेयर लाइक द मैन ऑफ द हाउस डिसाइड्स what is going to what the house and the family is going to do. And it is very unfortunate because uh, you know even your parents haven't got to live the lives that they wanted, because they have been doing duties that they were meant to do from the time they were born, and now they
Hmm.
want you to do those duties as well, because उनको लगता है यही parenting है. और ऑब्वियसली पेरेंट्स सुनते नहीं है यंग लोगों को, बिकॉज क्यों सुने, ये तो यंग है, बच्चे हैं, बच्चों को थोड़ा सुनेंगे, बच्चों को इज्जत, बच्चों को बोलते हैं कि ग्रो अप, बट एनी टाइम दैट द चाइल्ड स्टार्ट्स ग्रोइंग अप और स्टार्ट्स बिहेविंग लाइक अ ग्रोन अप, दे से तुम तो बच्चो, तो तुम तो चुप रहो, तुम कैसे बोल सकते हो. एंड अरे तुम ही तो कहा था कि ग्रो अप, एंड नाउ व्हेन आई एम ग्रोइंग अप यू सेइंग नो, कीप क्वाइट, यू आर अ चाइल्ड. सो देयर इज दिस कांस्टेंट लाइक the way that young people, that parents kind of just don't understand young people. Now added to this, na ye is generation ke liye, which is I would say the under 23 under 24 Gen Z generation, unke liye to all bhi ek bahut hi bada issue aa chuka hai, which is the internet has given this generation and given people like you, Sagar, like access. When did you start using the internet? What
I
age?
was born into it. I don't even remember. I was born into it.
See,
I mean,
exactly.
other older people remember when they started a Facebook
Correct.
account, but I think I was born with a Facebook account because I don't remember creating it. So I
But correct,
remember that
exactly.
internet was always there.
Exactly. Dude, I'm of that older generation where I remember a time before the internet. I have actually seen the internet happen in front of my eyes.
Right.
Like internet did not exist.
Hmm.
When like I was growing up. And I've seen it happen, and then created the first like Hotmail पे, Yahoo पे सारे IDs
Hmm.
create किए हैं. ये सारा देखा है मैंने पूरी दुनिया. And the thing is, where I feel like somewhere I don't know. I don't know if I would consider this good fortune, but I kind of knew the world before and then I knew the world after. So for me also, I've had a different challenge. Like as millennials, we had a different challenge because we had to kind of convince our parents. हमको क्या था ना, हमको
Hmm.
एक टाइम तक पता था कि ना दुनिया ये, पेरेंट्स बोलते थे ये दुनिया है, कि ये तुम्हारा रिलीजन है, ये
Hmm.
तुम्हारी सेक्सुअलिटी है, ये तुम्हारा करियर है, और तुम ये कर लो. और फिर इंटरनेट आ गया और फिर हमको समझ आया कि
Hmm.
ओ, we go online and suddenly we start looking at the world and we are like, oh shit, everything that our parents said may not necessarily be true. कि
Right.
और एटलीस्ट दैट माइट नॉट बी द कंप्लीट ट्रुथ, कि एक ही
Hmm.
जेंडर नहीं होता, एक ही सेक्सुअलिटी नहीं होती, एक ही करियर नहीं होता, which is
Hmm.
particularly important for young people to, but parents to understand. Like मैं इंजीनियर के अलावा भी कुछ कर सकता हूँ. I can get married to the girl of my choice. Whatever. So you had all of these things that you could never believe because कहाँ पता
Hmm.
चलता इंटरनेट के
Hmm.
पहले. तुम जो ना इंसाइक्लोपीडिया होते थे, मतलब तुम वहां पर तो ये ओपिनियन तो मिलते नहीं है, या फिर मतलब कहाँ पढ़ते तुम. बट
That
यू
is
आर
a very
born
interesting thought because I say I'd be privileged, in that sense, because I knew that these kind of things exist, right? Choice per se exists, but it
correct.
is a very interesting idea that people didn't know. तो मांगना तो छोड़ ही दो कि मांगेंगे ही कैसे जब पता ही नहीं.
Correct.
Very interesting.
So as you said, like I think we just didn't have enough choice, and because we didn't have enough choice, na kahin, while I mean, as I said, our generation has faced our own problems, but kahin na हम लोग थोड़े grounded भी थे because हमको ना इतनी चीजें चाहिए भी नहीं थी.
Hmm.
Where unfortunately, I mean, whatever, it's just a different thing, right? You guys were born into a world with so much choice, which means that when you were growing up, you kind of knew कि ना, जब मैं तुम्हारे पेरेंट्स से सोचा होगा कि ना मेरे बेटे की या बेटी की यही आइडेंटिटी. Like I
Hmm.
don't know if your parents necessarily wanted you to be doing filmmaking as a course. Like I mean, I like, I don't think that that's what every parent, when they have a child,
Very
think अरे
happy,
मेरा,
but very chill in that sense.
that's
Hmm.
great, but I don't think that, and that's, you're very fortunate. But as I
Hmm.
interact with young people across the country, that's not what I hear, right? They unko to wo
True.
doctors, bro, doctors have in aims, young doctors come and say I am depressed because मुझे doctor नहीं बनना था. And I'm just wondering that, if a doctor is saying this, and or a medical student is saying this, like, and what happens when they have to go into the field if they're saying they're
Hmm.
depressed right now? So parents have kind of always decided what the identity of young person is going to be, but your
Hmm.
generation has known very early because of the internet कि मेरी कुछ
True.
भी identity हो सकती है. And when you
Agreed.
have that understanding and the knowledge, it's very, like, how do you explain that to your parents who have been growing with, who don't even think of you as an adult, who think of you as a child?
Hmm.
They can't ever think that mera beta, or beti, or mera child has grown to, is how dare you make a decision of your own? And sometimes it's not
Hmm.
even about daring, but a lot of time it is. It's like, who are you to decide what you are going to do?
Hmm.
तुम कितने साल के हो? तुम 16 साल के हो, तुम्हें कुछ नहीं पता. Except the
Hmm.
fact is, तुम इसके at 16 years today, a young person knows probably more than your parents know at 40 or 45 or 50. Why? Because that 16 years of internet, whereas the parent may have had lesser of that. The parent may have had 10 years of internet because उनको 40 साल की उम्र में इंटरनेट उन्होंने सीखा होगा, और 50 साल तक उनको जितना आया आया है.
Hmm.
But
Hmm.
that kid has 16 years of internet and 16 years of knowledge on the internet. So that kid is
True.
probably far more exposed and far more understanding of the world than the parent. So I mean, so there is an essential issue where parents don't understand young people, and young people don't have an understanding of how to tell their parents of what they're going through. And this has led to like a, हर जनरेशन में जनरेशन गैप होता है. इस जनरेशन में कम्युनिकेशन गैप आ चुका है, और वो
Hmm.
इतना बड़ा बन चुका है ना, दैट कि लैंग्वेज ओनली ना ऑफ कम्युनिकेशन इज वेरी डिफरेंट, व्हिच इज व्हाई द एंटायर जनरेशन इज, मैं कहते हैं मैं फोन पे रहूंगा, आपसे बात करने का तरीका मतलब ही नहीं है, मैं आपसे बात करता हूँ कुछ समझ ही नहीं आता, तो माइट एज वेल बी ऑन द फोन. आई माइट एज वेल हैंग आउट विद अ डिवाइस than hang out with human beings, including my parents, because I can find a community or people who will understand me on the internet, but I will not find that in real. That's
Hmm.
really like the biggest issue that young people are struggling with, how to get their parents to understand them. And the onus of this is now on you. It's not on your parents because वो बहुत बड़े हो चुके हैं, और वो कैसे समझेंगे,
Hmm.
किसी को समझाना पड़ेगा उनको, और वो समझाने का भी.
Exactly. I also think that it is very unfair of the youth to expect that they'll understand it like this. You just can't expect it from them also, because they, you have 16 years of your, or 18 years or
Yeah.
20 years of your upbringing, but they have their 40 years as well, right? And you have
They
to
have 40
account
years
for
of
that.
they have
Yeah.
40 years of lived experience, and that
Hmm.
experience has come from a world where which was a different world,
Different.
you know. And
Sky different. Yeah.
it is a valid world in itself,
Hmm.
because that world at that time was valid. But will the rules of that world be valid in today's world? That's the big question na.
Hmm.
कि अगर अगर एक बच्चा बोल रहा है, मैं, and I've seen this especially with kids, who are who belong to the LGBTQ community, queer kids, you know they just, like, how do you explain to your parents sexuality? Like, you
Right.
just can't. And again, that's still, I would say, a step further. लड़कियां till today are not able to explain to parents कि मुझे नहीं शादी करनी, that is not my purpose, मुझे
Hmm.
मुझे कुछ और करना है, या फिर लड़के लिटरली, लड़कों की वही ना, मुझे इंजीनियरिंग नहीं करनी, मुझे कुछ और
Hmm.
करना है. So still those things that we're struggling with, still that, it's a huge issue. But outside of that, dude, I just, I mean, the major thing that I've heard and realized is just this mental health problem that almost everyone is kind of going through. And it really
Hmm.
comes down to loneliness, which again, just, if your parents don't understand you, you just have that, there is a void inside of you. The people who are meant to give me the love, or meant to give me that understanding, don't. So where do I really go out for that understanding? And obviously you seek friends, you seek relationships, you seek sex, sometimes you seek the internet as a friend, you seek your phone. I mean, but really, I mean, until at home and at really at the family level, we are able to get young people to feel loved and feel not lonely, and to make them feel like whatever their opinions are, their choices are, decisions are, their identities are, that they matter, that they are valid, that
Hmm.
they're not kids, and they're not stupid, and they're not dumb to say कि मैं ये सोचता हूँ या ये सोचती हूँ.
Hmm.
So until we kind of overcome that struggle, it's going to, I mean, problem hai yaar, is fight hell. That's the big issue that I think
Yeah.
we are also trying to
Especially,
try to figure out at Yuva.
especially in mental health, right? Especially at such depressing, so to say, times when you are stuck with, at your home, confined in the room. Of course, and speaking out of a place of privilege where you have enough food, you have a place to sleep,
Yeah,
and all of that. And even when you identify that, it is very, you are, to a certain extent, very thankful that at least you are, safe. In that sense, you're not walking kilometers to just get to your place. But in that also, these issues, I mean, all my friends, if you see their stories, it's just about how lonely they are feeling or depressed they're feeling. Of course, I think that is also very good that at least they are able to speak about it. But what do you
yeah.
think is, how are you dealing with, how's corona and the quarantine time, so to say going, and also how do you think one should look at it?
Particularly for me, man, I have faced clinical anxiety in the past, so
Hmm.
I have a history of not dealing very well with, you know, new
Pressure
situations.
situations, yeah.
Yeah, like, pressure. If I'm prepared for it, I can deal with. It's not a problem.
Hmm.
But anxiety really happens कि जब जो ना,
Hmm.
मतलब कुछ, if something happens that you are not expecting, when
Hmm.
uncertainty happens, that's where
Hmm.
anxiety happens. When you kind of have your idea, when you have a routine, when things are planned, when you kind of know, which obviously is not a very practical thing, obviously, and that is why anxiety
Hmm.
exists, right? Like, it's, you
Hmm.
can't ever have like complete certainty about life, but you
Hmm.
manage it, right? You are like कि हाँ, variables निकाल निकाल के ये होता है कि हाँ, मतलब ठीक है, worst case क्या होगा, यही होगा ना, worst case क्या होगा, यही होगा ना. But
Hmm.
nobody ever thinks कि worst case क्या होगा, pandemic आ जाएगा और सब लोग घर पे पड़े रहेंगे और suddenly like there'll be economic. I mean,
Right.
like, who could have imagined this as any kind of a
Ah.
worst case scenario?
Yeah.
So I mean, personally, anxiety hit me really hard in the first 3-4 weeks of this pandemic, which I think has also given me time to prepare myself, because I've already now thought of, like, when now people say कि 2 साल तक चलेगा, 3 साल चलेगा, मैं कहा हाँ, मैं समझ चुका हूँ already. ये मैं पहले 4 हफ्ते में हो गया था मेरे. Like, I had my panic attacks, I had my anxiety on what the hell is going to happen now. And particularly for me, like, my parents don't live with me, so they live out
Hmm.
of the country, in fact. So until flights restart and international flights restart, I can't see them, which is my
Hmm.
biggest issue. But at the same time, I also feel like I don't think I've ever spoken to my mother as much as I have in the last 2 months.
Right.
Every single day talking to her,
Hmm.
which I'm really glad that I'm able to.
Hmm.
But overall, I think I mean, it's such a, as you said, like, what way could you look at an event like this, which is so unprecedented,
Hmm.
so unlikely to have ever, like,
Unseen ever.
unseen, man. Yeah, I mean, in our lifetimes, and
Hmm.
I'm like good 10, 12, 13 years older than you, I suppose.
Yeah.
Even in my lifetime also, I've just, like, never seen anything as weird, and terrible as what we are seeing right now. And I don't think anybody in their lifetimes probably has.
In
uh,
fact,
uh
there was a very interesting article which was comparing this to the world wars, and they were
yeah.
saying at least in world wars, the war would stop at the night, and people could go out freely, because there was a protocol on in
Yeah.
both the sides. Ki after 10:30, you stop all this stuff,
Hmm.
and now though you are like you can't go out, and it
Yeah,
is
man.
very difficult.
It's yeah, it's just an unforeseen problem that we are facing right now. But
Hmm.
again, there's just, I think, if anything, this is perhaps the one thing that can teach us that there is no certainty in life. Like, like,
Yeah.
you always see this in those quotes that people put on Instagram, right? कि मतलब plan करने का क्या फायदा, मतलब just take it one day
Hmm.
at a time or one day. But I mean, if there's any more proof that you needed, that every day
Anything
matters,
can.
yeah, anything can happen, every single day matters, every single moment matters, every single relationship that you have, your loved ones matter, all of these things, that what we should be grateful for, what is essential at this point of time. We are learning so much. We are learning, like, everything.
Hmm.
And interestingly, I think, especially as a young person, I think you guys can look at this as a great opportunity of while we have all existed in this digital bubble, for such a
Hmm.
long time, and
Hmm.
I would imagine, like, even when earlier, when you're at school or when you're with your friends, you're always kind of on your phones.
Hmm.
Now I think it's just, I think you'll appreciate, and I'm
True.
appreciating the time that you're spending with,
True.
like, I'm appreciating the time that I'm spending with my wife. I'm appreciating even the time that I'm spending on video calls with my mother. Because I
Hmm.
just don't think I've appreciated it enough so far. And it's yeah, there is so much you can take away from this. Yeah, that anything can happen. So really, like, make every day count. Work on the things that you truly love and enjoy and are passionate about. And care for those things that you care for, the people. Spend more time with your loved ones. Listen to
Hmm.
them, be there for them. And just be kind and respectful for everybody. Look at at this point of time, if the people who are delivering food or ration to our, we would have just, I mean, what could we have done? We could have had all the money in the world, but अगर चावल और दाल ही
True.
नहीं आ रही थी घर पे, क्या करते हम? So there's a lot to think about, a lot to be grateful for. But I think what we probably the most we have learned is that, as we go forward, we really need to make some essential changes in the way we look at life,
Hmm.
and we look
True.
at the world and society around us.
Also that, if I could add a few things, I think, what
Please,
has
please.
helped me a lot is gratitude. One key, as you said, key, look at those people who are delivering. Also look at yourself, key, you are able to sit in a high speed internet ka thing and order food at the convenience of your step, and there is still someone who is putting his life in risk and coming and giving it to you. So one, that gratitude, and second is stop consuming news, because I think, it was making me so anxious. Every day it was like China did this and did that and that, and economies are going to crash. It is going to take 15 years to rebuild all of this. It is going to last for 10 years, and I was like, I can't take this anymore. I need to stop it. And I think since then it's been very good. I've been
Yeah,
reading more. I've been, doing
yeah.
such amazing video calls, consuming so much valuable content. And I think, if you keep yourself busy, I think it should pass very well.
So I have a trick. I have a trick that I have realized works for me,
Hmm.
which is that I schedule my freak out time. Like, I kind of am like कि जो ना मैं ना I don't let the news. I mean, I know when I'm going to get affected by. तो मैं एक
Hmm.
time रखता हूँ आधा घंटा कि इस आधे घंटे में ना मैं पढ़ूंगा सारी न्यूज, because I also want
Hmm.
to be prepared. My anxiety kind
Yeah.
of tells me
Hmm.
that भाई तुम्हें पता होना चाहिए कि क्या हो रहा है, so but I keep that 30 minutes according to my wish versus according to the
Hmm.
internet's wish, so I don't just browse and kind of read news, but I'm like ये 30 minutes रखूंगा मैं दिन के अंदर, उसके बाद मैं आधा घंटा रखूंगा just to like feel terrible about कि how bad the
Hmm.
situation is. So 30 minutes of consuming and 30 minutes of just like lying down and being like, oh fuck, we are all screwed, and
Hmm.
then when I allow myself this 1 hour, I feel better because I'm just like, ठीक है मैंने process कर लिया, now I can move on to something else,
Hmm.
so maybe that could help, like because I think ये notifications जो होते हैं, जो आते हैं हमको, and that kind of breaking news keeps coming in and popping up, like we don't have a control over our emotions in today's world because of the internet,
Hmm.
right? And because of social media,
Hmm.
you can be given any news at any, like again, I don't want to sound too old, but when I was much younger, right? When you would go to, you didn't have mobile phones, right? Like, so people were just, you'd wait it out. You would talk to somebody
Hmm.
at the end of the day, and you would just talk at that point of time. You could feel whatever you wanted to feel, and stay in that moment of that emotion. Today when you go on Twitter also, or any other platform, at one post is about a migrant, so in 1 second you're kind of feeling terrible, and the second post is a cute puppy, and then you're just like, oh fuck, cute puppy, oh I love this. The third photo is of coronavirus saying that it kabhi nahi khatam hone wala, and you're like, oh shit, this is terrible. The fourth again is something about like movie news that you want to wait for. And how does your mind kind of, it's so complicated and confusing, with your emotions being you know spent in so many different directions in a minute to minute, second to second basis. So I think
Right.
it's also important perhaps to have some sort of a routine on how you're going to consume things. Like don't let these things consume you. You have to consume them. So I
Right.
think that's one of the things that I've picked up and learned a lot.
Awesome, sir. So, that's it. I think, I mean, I hope if you are having a bad time at home, I hope, start being more grateful. I think it can help. I can just, I mean, we are just picking out of our own experiences and telling, but I know it can be hard, and you just have to hold on, I guess. I mean, and sir, with that, I'd like to go to my next question. Now, let me
I just
tell.
want to add one. I just want to
Yeah,
add
yeah,
one thing.
sure,
Like over here,
sure.
which is that I think we need to, Sagar. I think we need to allow ourselves to process what we're going through.
Hmm.
Don't run away from what you're going through. If
Hmm.
you are feeling bad, if you are feeling terrible, if you are feeling sad, lonely, depressed, upset, it's okay.
Hmm.
It's, you are allowed to feel that. If there was ever a time in the history of your life you were allowed to feel bad, it is now. You could not have seen this coming. Nobody could have
Hmm.
seen this coming. So if you're going through something, go through it. Let
Hmm.
it happen to you, so that you are able to live with that feeling and process that feeling, which we just don't allow ourselves, because we are constantly trying to run away from bad emotions or low emotions. And until, I think it's more healthy to process them, it's more healthy to feel them and then move on, versus trying to distract. And then because they've not really the process, those emotions haven't processed, they're just lying, they're like the monkey on your back, right? Like विक्रम बेताल वाला इशू आता है, बेताल जैसे पड़ा रहता है, वो कहीं जाता नहीं है वो, so just allow yourself to process it. It is going to be okay. You will get through it. But if you try to run from it and try to be like, नहीं मैं ये नहीं कर सकता, I shouldn't be feeling this, it's going to get, it's probably not going to be healthy,
Right.
and it'll probably affect you even more.
Awesome, awesome. So, the next thing I want to talk about, and I think, major of the issues that you very strongly feel for, and I also feel for, I think we'll cover in that topic. And I can't believe myself that I'm going to discuss this, because, clickbait kind of content was the last thing I wanted to do this on the channel. But I think, there's been a huge debate in the past few days about TikTok versus YouTube. Okay. And as I mean, at first I was like, what stupid thing is this? Why are we even discussing this? And how does it matter, a platform and all of that? But when I thought a little bit about it, I think I really, broke it down, so to say, in four problems that I saw that were happening. And I think this is a very good time, because you are in the digital space, so am I. You have, I mean, you have been taking a lot of my Instagram stories are more of your content than mine. And I think that, I take the time to discuss with you. So before, let's set up a context here, is that there has been a debate about how TikTokers are cringe, make crass content, and massy crassy content, and YouTubers make a bit intellectual content. Therefore YouTube is always on a higher pedestal than TikTok. Okay, the Carrie Minati video was how where it blew out of proportion, where it was like, he called him some slurs and all of that, and there was a different angle that entered. So I think that is when it got really big. And so, what the four things that I saw in the whole debate was, one was the homophobic debate, that Carrie Minati, what video he made was homophobic. Second was the dissing of the app, that this app is very bad, this and that. The third debate was what they are creating is not art, which is very related to what the dissing of the app was. And the fourth was, which I thought came into play, was political correctness, right? Political correctness as a concept, which I'm not a huge fan of. Let me tell you that off the bat. And so let me start the thing, and then you can join in and discuss, and we can talk it
Sure,
out.
please,
Is
please.
that the first thing I'd say is it art, right? What TikTokers are making, is it art? And I mean, to be the devil's advocate here, I think it is. I mean, I study creative arts, so to say. And in that, we have always been told that art is very subjective. Art is so subjective that you know Bollywood, so to say, is not art for the West. Okay, but I study Bollywood, I study how the rasas come into play, the technicalities of it, and for me it is art, right? We see the whole culture in how the mainstream music is not considered art by the hip hop artist. The hip hop artsy music is not considered music by the Bollywood mainstream cinema. Art cinemas versus mainstream cinema. You keep seeing such contrasting debates where you are like, what is even art? And that is where the answer comes, is what you like is art. And in fact, we do such kind of interviews, and I as I said, I have a digital marketing agency as well. And in that, we know how fast TikTok is growing, and we want to be on TikTok. But I can't just imagine, nor anyone else at the office is being able to manage, how do we cut 1 hour ka videos into 10 1 minute ka videos? How do we put that content in 1 minute? We are just not being able to understand it. And if someone comes and tell me, I'll do that for you, he will be the biggest artist I know of, because to put that in that time frame, I don't think it's easy. Again, being the devil's advocate here, so I think it is art. What do you think on it?
Um, First of all, really loved listening to your views on this. I think really great views. Good job,
Yeah.
Sagar. You are really, and I always find, young people like you far more smarter and mature than I see some of the older lot.
Come on.
So no, I'm not even joking. That's also the reason that I've started literally a company called Yuva, because मुझे मैं older लोगों के साथ नहीं hang out कर सकता. मुझे समझ ही नहीं
No,
आता वो
I also
कैसे
think,
सोचते हैं.
there is a weird thing ki all young people are stupid and that all old people are smart. I don't think that's true.
See,
I've met so many old people who are very intelligent, but I've also met so many old people that I wouldn't
I
share
don't
my
even talk
views with.
honestly. I don't think it's about smartness. I think it's a
Hmm.
lot to do with the uh,
Exactly. Yeah.
cynicism, or
Hmm.
or I would say malleability. Where I see a
Right.
lot of old people
Yeah.
not willing to change after a point of time. Young people have that they're not that cynical yet, so they have it in them to allow themselves to change. So
Hmm.
अगर आपका कुछ opinion होता भी है, and that is what kind of makes you smart in that sense, that you are ready to always learn. Whereas after a point of time उन लोगों की learning खत्म हो जाती है, उनको पता है यही मेरा opinion है और मैं कुछ नहीं change करने वाला. If I hate something, I hate something. If I like something, I like something. And versus young people who are kind of allowing themselves to learn new things and be like, नहीं मुझे शायद नहीं पता, which is a very important question. I think all of us should ask ourselves. constantly have. I don't know. I think is one of the most important things for as a sentences I've learned in my life, which I use as often as possible. And I don't
100%.
presume to know things, right? Uh,
100%.
uh, and coming to what you said, again, yeah, ये जो debate है ना, ये कितने, as you said yourself, कितने different types, कितने different तरीकों से, कितनी different industries में चलती आ रही है. The people who made pop music once was looked down upon, by
Hmm.
Bollywood. Bollywood was looked down upon by independent artists. Independent artists are looked at as certain, by hip hop, as you said, is looked on as something else. Um, मेरा ना, the fundamentally, I think the question itself is kahin wrong. I think the
Is it?
question that, yeah, that we ask, which is about art
Hmm.
versus a question about the people who consume and the choices that they have. Dick, I don't know how to, I'm going to drill it down into something simple, but our understanding of art has
Hmm.
come from a very elite understanding of what art is meant to be.
Hmm.
I have grown up in a
100%.
generation where art is basically, okay, chalo, from Kurosawa to Fellini to,
Hmm.
so on and so forth, is
Right.
art.
Hmm.
Scorsese and Steven Spielberg, when they were coming up, were looked down upon
Hmm.
as ye log kaun hai, ye to naye ladke hain. They were
Hmm.
the, you know they were part of a new wave of directors who were being like, what are they making? This is not art.
Right.
And then, of course, you had your Soderberghs of the world, and the Tarantinos of the world, who were looked down
Hmm.
upon as in the 90s, saying ye kaun aa gaya hai, this what they are making is not art. And today, you would have the Marvel movies that are being looked down upon and saying this is not art. But who decides, you know like, why is there a gatekeeping on what art is meant to be or
Right.
is supposed to be? अगर
Hmm.
मैंने, and this comes from a certain understanding, this comes from a certain snobbery, कि of कि मैं, क्योंकि मैं ये चीज कंज्यूम करता हूँ, मुझे पता है कि आर्ट है, because this is the highest form of that art, because this is the best film possible made, and I have seen it and I understand it, etc. Which is comes down to YouTube also, right? YouTube पे तो बहुत effort लगता है, लोग एफर्ट मारते हैं. मुझे यूट्यूब समझ आता है तो ये आर्ट है, मुझे फिल्में समझ आती है तो आर्ट है, मुझे नोलन समझ आता है तो आर्ट है, मुझे टैरेंटिनो समझ आता है तो आर्ट है, जो मुझे समझ नहीं आता
Art.
वो बेकार है. And it is nothing but a revelation of our privilege. It is a revelation of the fact that my education has allowed me to have access to this,
Hmm.
and people who don't have access to this, and for whom expression and creativity is a function of what they have had access to in their lives. But I look down on it because, so when I'm looked down on them, I'm actually looking down on the lives that they have. I'm looking down on the society that they occupy, the place in society they occupy.
True.
I'm looking down on the socio-economic uh, part of the lives that they lead. I'm looking out on the fact that they've not had the access to internet or education or information as I have done. When I'm say that, my art is better than yours, or what I consume is art and what they consume is not. So
$100.
so I don't think we should be debating, what is art or what is not. We should really be debating, do or we should really be talking more about, do people have equal access to, what to the different kinds of content that is created in the world. Does the kid on TikTok have that access to Nolan's new film? And if he doesn't have that access, or she doesn't have that access, why are you judging them for what they understand as art?
Hmm.
Because you're not passing a judgment on their creativity. You're passing on judgment on the space in society that they occupy, and which I find very, very distasteful and very, very unfortunate.
Right.
And we just need to stop having this discussion, because this discussion is kind of, it reveals that it reveals our place in the
Elitist
class.
mental.
Yeah,
Right.
our place in the hierarchy of class.
Yeah.
And
Elitist mindset.
we
Totally.
should just, I'm a ho gaya yaar. I think it's high time that we really realize that
Hmm.
just because we understand something doesn't make it art. Just because we consume something doesn't make it art. Just because we find something, we find taste in something doesn't make that tasteful. you know just because जो ऑटो रिक्शा वाला जिस तरीके से अपने ऑटो रिक्शा को डिजाइन करता है ना, वो भी एस्थेटिक है उसके लिए. और मेरे
Hmm.
लिए अगर मैं जो जो स्वीडिश और डेनिश हुगा जिसको बोलते हैं वो समझता हूँ मैं, और वो मैं बोलता हूँ वो हुगा है,
Hmm.
बट दैट डजंट मीन कि वो एस्थेटिक ज्यादा है और वो एस्थेटिक कम है. वो उसके लिए
True.
एस्थेटिक है और ये मेरे लिए एस्थेटिक है. एंड आई कैन नॉट लुक एट दैट एंड से दैट
And
अरे
it
वो क्या
is
बकवास है.
it is morally wrong to do that, and I don't know why people don't understand that you can't just speak out of your privilege, out of your elitist mindset, and show someone down. I mean, that as humanity, if you're showing someone down, isn't that wrong in itself?
But
But
dude, I mean, Sagar, that's not very difficult to understand. To be honest, I think it's the
hmm,
easiest thing to understand. As Indians, we are our entire lives have been. When you think about it, as Indians, every Indian's entire life's journey is to break out of the circumstances you have. It
true,
is the entire
100%.
journey of an Indian person is aspiration. It is कि मुझे जो ना जो जो क्लास स्ट्रक्चर मैं ऑक्यूपाई करता हूँ मुझे उससे ज्यादा करना. I have to be more than this. I cannot be a middle class person. I have to be, upper class. I cannot be just an upper class. I have to be really rich. I cannot be just really rich. I have to be Mukesh Ambani, and going down to the lowest, socioeconomic parts of society who obviously want to get to a place where they get to be at least middle class. Indian society and in general, all society is pretty much a journey to make it out of the class barrier that they are occupying. And the reason they want to break out of the class barrier is also not to do with just money or privilege. It is to do with the fact that हम लोगों ने ना, and it comes down to young people also ना, हम लोगों ने किसी किसी तरीके से ना ऐसा सक्सेस और द आइडिया ऑफ मनी को इतना फेटिसाइज किया हुआ है ना, इतना रोमांटिसाइज किया हुआ है ना कि we look at only richness and success and money as the most important thing that you can have in life, versus looking at kindness or humanity or love or friendship or you know or any of these things as of any value whatsoever. So we have our society is built on a structure which is flawed in itself. So it is obviously yaar, to think about it, even though people, even middle class के अंदर जो है ना, मतलब तो I mean I know I don't want to digress, but I just find it like so sad that the person who is the watchman of the building that you are staying in calls a 45-50-year-old watchman, looks at you who is 30, 31, or even younger, and says Saab, and like, why are you calling me Saab? Just because I have more money than you doesn't mean that I deserve
True,
a
100%.
certain kind of respect. Because but in our society it is money that occupies gets that respect. It is not good deeds, it is not love, it is not compassion, and so it is an unequal society. So which is why when YouTube, which has more effort, so to speak, which requires a certain kind of laptop or edit software or expensive phone or gear, and so to speak talent, because it is a function of the means, it is looked on as acha ye to acha hai. But TikTok, which is the simplest and most common, easiest level,
And
lowest
the
common
most
denominator,
used.
the most used, it is looked down upon because अरे ये तो इसमें तो effort नहीं है, इसमें तो मतलब, and so it is classist, elitist thing, and yeah, it's very very unfortunate.
Also, this is, I think, the right point to segue, so to say, into the other debates that came up, because I am more interested in these debates rather than the TikTok versus YouTube thing. Is that the second, and we'll take these debates together, is that political correctness one, and the second is homophobia, right? To give the audience a context, homophobia is when you call out names and all of that stuff. You can read a lot more on that. And political correctness is, so to say, double standards in some way. Is that, for example, when the African American community in America were called blacks, it was offensive to them, right? So they changed the name to African American community, right? And I totally agree with it, because those words were used to show them down, and they feel offended. So, and they don't want to be called that, then of course they should opt for something else. But then what happens is, in their community, they call themselves black, and the N word and all of that. Also, when addressing someone else, not only that community, we whole as a world address people as white people, so to say, English, because they are out of England. And so these labels to say censorship, all of this comes under this one broad umbrella term called political correctness. That be politically correct, whenever you go, so that you don't say something which is offensive to people. In short, I'm not a fan of it, because I think people that directly opposes the so-called law of freedom of speech, right? But again, it is also very because you can't, if you are not saying it out of wrong intentions, then it's fine, but there is no metric to say judge your intentions, right? So it is a very gray area. I don't know what the solution is, but that debate, I think, very well applies to this thing, is where he said some homophobic slurs. I am not going to repeat those. You can find, I mean, there are hundreds of videos on it by now. And so he said those. Now the debate is, should have and this is what I want to bring to you, Nikhil sir. Should he have had said those or not? And my opinion on it is, I don't mind. I'll tell you why. And uh, I mean, I think I'm the biggest. I mean, I've shown, I have immense respect
Mhm.
towards the LGBT society, and the amount of struggles they just have to be to exist. And whenever I get a chance, I try and volunteer in all the organizations there are related to it. And therefore, in fact, I have so many friends who are from the community, and we were also discussing this yesterday. And and what I was, my point of view there was also that in LGBTQ spectrum, right? It is wrong to call them names, but do you blame Carrie for that? No, you blame the whole society for it, because they normalized it at the first place. There are so many swear words which are to do with the women's, and that is weirdly okay. Why? Because you normalized it throughout years and years, and you can't just blame a YouTuber who did it. You have to blame the whole society who
So,
normalized it.
okay.
Also, in that political correctness comes ki yaar wo to, I mean, I'm a huge fan of Jimmy Carr and Ricky Gervais and all of those dark humor kind of comedians who say absurd shit on the stage. Absurd.
Yeah.
I mean, if someone takes those, and they have already been smashed for it. In fact, take the Indian example of the AIB roast. I mean, there are so many. It was such a big controversy, but that is a whole genre of dark humor, and roast humor. And that is where I think Carrie was into. And you don't take the words literally by means. Of course, I mean, if you ask me what the solution to it was,
Mhm.
I think
Mhm.
the video shouldn't have been taken down, because that is against his rights of having whatever opinion he has to, wrong or right. I don't know him personally, so I don't know if he is homophobic or not. But his on camera persona shouldn't be the judge for his real life persona. So his video shouldn't have been taken down. I think it would have been amazing if Carrie would have had come out and said ki, dude, this was one on one, therefore I was swearing at him, I was not trying to demean any kind of communities, and therefore I'm sorry if anyone felt that. But I also think that swears are, and I don't use them in their literal terms, I just use them to show someone down, and that's my kind of comedy. I should be allowed to do that. But I'm sorry if someone got hurt. So I think that is my thing. But I've spoken a lot. I think Nikhil sir, you should say what you feel about the whole thing, and how it should have been handled if you would have had been the manager of the YouTuber, so to say. And
See,
what do you think about the whole thing?
I don't want to. Okay, there's so much to unpack over here. Broadly, I would say like I agree with you in some parts, but I also disagree with you in some parts, Sagar.
Right.
And I'll
Please,
explain
please.
myself. I'll
Yeah,
explain
yeah.
myself.
Right.
Dick, political correctness is a different debate,
Hmm.
and really what it comes down when you genuinely kind of think about it, it really comes down to kindness or compassion, really. You
True.
know, it's not for you or me to decide what terms are going to be offensive to the LGBTQ community, or
Definitely.
what should we just call them or not call them.
Definitely.
I can't speak for them and say whether what he said was offensive to them or not. They are the right people to kind of speak about it and say, this is what I
True.
felt. And
100%.
whatever they felt is valid,
Hmm.
and the
Definitely.
problem, and while, and we have to respect that, right? Of course, there's a
100%.
larger thing that in society, where are we? Is political correctness becoming too much? Again, it really depends on context. Yeah. The
Hmm.
context is that there have been a bunch of communities in historically that have been oppressed, that have not been seen as humans, or not been given the kind of respect that other humans have been given, and that battle is ongoing. That just few days ago we have heard of, like maybe 2 days ago we've heard of a young girl having committed suicide because her
Hmm.
parents tried to convert
Right, right. Convergent
her
therapy.
sexual,
Yeah.
yeah, her sexuality. Now, why did that, you know is a YouTuber responsible for that directly? Of course not. What
Hmm.
But having said that, if someone at his level, and
Hmm.
if you have to understand the influence and power dynamics of somebody who has a celebrity. What they say matters.
Hmm.
The way they communicate matters. I completely
Hmm.
understand the roast
Definitely.
structure. Okay, I'm
Hmm.
not, again, I think within the roast structure you're allowed to say certain things. Having said that, are you allowed to say everything? I don't know, man.
I
I
mean,
mean, you have to
if
kind of
you
decide your,
see, if you see the Justin Bieber ka roast that happened in the West,
yeah.
and I
But
mean
again,
that
Sagar,
is
Justin
also,
Bieber is
yeah,
in that. You get it? Like, see, the
right.
difference is when roasts typically happen, even AIB roasts.
Hmm.
When
Hmm.
whatever jokes that they were making on each other, like Ashish
Have
Shankar,
consent. Yeah,
yeah, you have consent. They are in on those jokes. They are in on the roast.
definitely. Yeah.
Every roast, and I've seen like some really offensive things being said on roasts. But
Hmm.
but really, the idea is that this person is in and knows. Is Amir Siddiqui in? I don't know if he's in, if he was in on what was going to happen.
Hmm.
Would which is a different thing altogether. But is the LGBTQ community in when they are called a word by somebody
Hmm.
who is in a position of power, a position of influence, and okay, now maybe you are, for example, Sagar, a smart enough young person to understand that this
Hmm.
word should not be used regularly, or what he
Hmm.
has said may not be
No,
used,
it
should not be
shouldn't be
used.
used at all.
Yeah, so
But
I mean,
it's
exactly.
you can't
Having
selectively
said
choose.
that, correct.
Yeah.
Having said that, you know, look at, I mean, the 40 million people who have seen that video. Do you think that those people also get this exact thing? I
Exactly.
don't think they
That
do.
I think
And
that's where it gets
so,
very gray. That
yeah, no,
you
it's not gray. It's very clear. I would say it's
oh
black
is
and
it?
white. I don't
Yeah.
think that, that if you can assume, or you have a position of responsibility as
Hmm.
somebody with a certain amount of following. Now, again, like, and again, I don't want to talk specifically to Carrie, and I mean, his entire persona is built on roasting. So he has in many ways stepped away from the responsibility, saying मुझे तो responsibility चाहिए भी नहीं. In which
Hmm.
case, I understand, why he would say something like this and not kind of be sorry about it. Having said that, I don't begrudge. I think YouTube was right in taking the decision of taking the video down, because when you have that kind of power, and in you use, and even if as a joke you use that power in saying something that could be seen as derogatory to a
True.
community that still in today's
Sure.
times is not seen as equal, or not seen as human,
Sure.
as the position of privilege that Carrie occupies in society. Then, I mean, you have to count for that at some point. And I think
True.
it's a very easy thing that we kind of, it's very easy to absolve celebrities and important people from responsibility. But I mean, if you continue doing that, man, you're going to continue have stalking normalized in our films. You're going to continue to have item numbers. We are going to continue to see women being shown only as objects and men being shown only as strong. We are going to, I mean, like, the cycles of patriarchy are never going to break. Our society is going to remain as, screwed as it has always been. And the way to undo, and I would imagine that it is the power, it is in the hands of young people to undo that. You can bring that change. Of course, if you don't want to bring it, that's a completely different question, which is why I don't want to talk particularly about Carrie. But I just
Hmm.
want to talk about the fact that at some point it is the young people who have to decide what kind of society we want to live in. And is it, and what you might consider harmless, if it hurts, or if it offends, or if it empowers, one person, if it empowers one person to be offensive to another person in a situation that is not a host, do you
Right.
really want that on your on you? I mean, again, so there is a lot of boundaries, but as I said, yeah, it's about consent. It's about punching up, about punching down. It's about the position of privilege you occupy in your life and in society, and how your words are going to be consumed. Is everyone going to understand you're in on the joke?
Right. Well, also, Nikhil
If not,
sir,
are you sure you want to crack it?
yeah. So also, what I think is also that I 100% agree with you. In fact, we at Juvenile are trying to make content which promotes the LGBTQ community, and we strongly believe that those words shouldn't be used at all. But that being said, as I gave you the examples of Jimmy Carr and all these other Western comedians, so to say, who work in dark humor. And I mean, there are so many of my friends who enjoy dark humor, who really
As
do.
so,
But
if Ricky Gervais has the right to make
mm,
jokes on transgenders, the community of the transgender community has the right to feel offended as well. And
yeah,
it is both their right in their own place, and
true.
as and honestly, if he can continue making those jokes and they can continue being offended,
Mm,
and that is just how it is. But but if you want a dialogue, or if you want things to move forward, there has to be a point at which the person we have to understand that the person who is in a position of power and privilege
as
and
influence.
yeah, as influence, you have to be the person responsible on shaping the
True,
new narrative.
true.
The equality can only happen, okay, and this is just how it is, right? Like, why do we still not have equality when it comes to men and women? Because if women are going to get occupy a place of slightly higher respect and compassion and humanity in society, at some level men have to be okay with the fact that they are not going to be completely powerful at all times,
Exactly,
but
exactly.
for that they have to give away that power.
Power,
So
and say that we are willing to give away
and
that
we are
power.
willing to
We
give
don't
it
want it.
exactly. So
Yeah.
it is always up to the powerful to give away that
Mm,
power,
true.
so that they can uplift those who don't have it. But if
Mm,
if you're not willing to have that conversation, or if you just ignore that conversation, that's where the problem lies.
mm.
So while I don't think this is only about a YouTube video and about views. It's a larger issue that we need to kind of
Though,
just
yeah,
try and
exactly.
address.
I think that is, I think, somewhere my problem is that it has been pointed towards a YouTuber. I think anyone who feels offended should point at him and say that you have done wrong and all of that. But at the end of the day, understand that there is a larger and much larger issue sitting at the back of
Yeah,
that person,
absolutely,
and should
absolutely.
address that. In fact,
We should, I mean, again, as I said, I've repeatedly said that, when a young person particularly says something, it's not a function of what uh, they believe. It's a function of the circumstances that they've had. It's a function of the world that they've grown up in. It's a function of the society that they belong to. Having said that, at some point, people who have power and influence and privilege should now themselves try to learn how to use that power responsibility. At
yeah,
till
makes
what time
sense.
can I look at all young YouTubers, and I'm talking about every single one of them, not just Carrie, but every single one of them who may have in the past, when they were coming up, said something stupid. Till what time are they allowed to continue to say something which is offensive
Hmm.
or derogatory or stupid, and we give them a free pass and say it's all right? I don't think, man. At some point of time, and I
Hmm.
know, and I know a lot of these kids personally, and I will be honest with you, and I love them. I think some of them are really genuinely lovely people, and they have worked so hard to get where they are. But after a point of time, you need to do better, man. It's not up. I mean, you can't, like, after a point of time, you're an adult. After a point of time, you have that power, and you need to figure out what you have to do with it.
In fact, you put out a very interesting post yesterday, which I also shared, is that how crass content is everywhere. It is there on TikTok. Definitely, it is there. But it is there on YouTube. And say, the other way around, there is amazing content on YouTube and there is amazing content on TikTok. I don't use it as much, but there's this Instagram page. I follow Gary Vee a lot. So there's an Instagram page which
Yeah,
only puts his TikTok videos out. And I mean, I follow that page to the end, and I mean, isn't that amazing content? So I think that as a platform also, it is very wrong for us to pick and choose that no, this is, and generalize especially कि this is totally
मैं
bad.
वही कह रहा हूँ यार issue is it's a class issue versus anything else, and this is
Right.
nothing to do with what Carrie was talking
Hmm.
about.
Exactly.
This is just a separate issue altogether. We look down on TikTok because we look down on that section of society,
Right.
and it's coming back to what we spoke about when it comes to art. We just don't see it as art because it does not uh, it it's not comfortable to us, it's not familiar to us, it doesn't come
Right.
from the circles that we occupy in society. तो ठीक है, मुझे समझ नहीं आता तो cringe है. मतलब I mean we need to do better than that यार. I mean
Right.
really, like YouTube पे मतलब literally I've seen like there are fucking pranks on it's a literal sexual harassment, going to girls and kissing them and whatnot,
True.
or touching them inappropriately. There's obviously like a ton of racist homophobic content there. There is like how to make a
Hmm.
bomb is an active thing that you can kind of find when you YouTube things.
On do,
I
yeah.
mean, yeah, like, and are you saying that YouTube is any better as a platform than TikTok? I doubt it. Yeah,
Same.
So all platforms, again, as I said, as we were, all platforms have good and bad content, and that is a reflection of the society that we have. We should be doing moderation and regulation of all terrible content on all platforms, but just kind of singling out TikTok for hate really reveals the fact that we want to gatekeep the kind of expression that should be allowed in society.
True.
And anything
100%.
that is not expression that comes from a certain class of people is looked down upon, which is just wrong, horrifying, distasteful, and I just don't
True.
stand for it.
Awesome. So, let's get towards entrepreneurship a bit more. And, in fact, I was asking Anupama ma'am also the same thing yesterday, that especially in agencies which have an outlet on internet, where you can see people from the team and from the company, how do you get people and how do you choose that we'll hire this one and not this one? Because when that person is out there, then you are, so to say, your brand is responsible for his public image, what he does, and all of that.
I don't have a good answer to that because it's been a trial and error for us as well.
Right.
Because it's not so much only about the ethos of the company, but it's also about how the team you know that works on that works together. The camaraderie of that team, the way that they gel together, the way that they respect each other, and are kind to each other. And it's a trial and error. Yeah. Sometimes you can have like a
Right.
really smart, intelligent, amazing person come in the team, but they just don't, temperament wise, don't fit in with the rest of the team. I have found out, particularly if you get people who are at a basic level kind and decent, and have obviously talent, but at a basic level are kind and decent, there is a good likelihood that they are going to work together well. They're going to get along well. And I use like my technical interviews are always done by different members of my team, but I only do like pretty much, so to speak, HR interviews where I just talk about the lives of the people that are coming in. I try to ask them what do they care about, why do they care about it, and yeah. So I try to have conversations about like who the people are, what are their lives like, what do they care
Right.
about, what do they not care about. I just try to
Hmm.
gauge whether or not they are compassionate and whether, or at least a certain level of decent as human beings. And if I find that, I try to take them on. Having said that, again, as I said, yeah, it's a trial and error. It's very difficult to get a good team together, I've learned the hard way that in the interest of a larger team, sometimes you might have to let go of good people because they're not fitting in with the team. Because ultimately, if you have like one really talented person, but a team that doesn't, a whole team that works in a certain way, and a talented person working in another way, that just, I mean, that's not going to be constructive after a point of time.
Right. Awesome. So yeah, my next question is about via this media entrepreneurship journey that you have been into, and I mean I don't want to put it in numbers, but I have to because people get that much easily. Is what, and I'd ask is what have your top three learnings out of the media entertainment industry been, or the entrepreneurship journey been?
I will again start with cliche in that I think it's very important to be kind. It's very important to be compassionate. It's very important to be a decent human being, because ultimately you are not just building, You're not just networking, you're not just building connections, you're building relationships with people. It's so much of my sales, so to speak, has come from people who have had respect for my work, and respect for me as a human being. And likewise, so many of the people that I've associated with and worked with are because I genuinely cherish them as good human beings. After a point of time, you don't want to work with people who are assholes, right? So I think it's really, really very important to just be a decent human being, and yeah, be compassionate, not only to and extend that empathy not only to the people that you work with, but also to yourself, because it's really hard sometimes to sort of lead. It's not easy, you don't have all the answers. So yeah, just be kind to everybody and to yourself. That, I would say, this is the top number one thing. Second, I think, care a lot about the work that you do. That's a philosophy that I mean, you'd feel it's too obvious, but I don't see that enough, man. I don't think enough people care about the work you do. I mean, I've now been in the industry for 13 years, and I've not seen. I've been to like different places, and there is passion. Maybe with like the person who's founded the company, there might be passion of two people who are like excellent workers, but the rest of them are not just passionate enough, or to, and forget passion, just don't care about the work that they're doing enough. you know
What they're doing.
yeah. And I think that it is tremendously important to care about what you do, because then you enjoy it, then you put your best in it, and you find the success. Success is never about just hitting targets. It's about really, like, sometimes just making sure that what you're putting out there is the best version of what it can be, because you care about it enough. So yeah, that I think is again a very, very, very important aspect of yeah, about a career that you could have. um what is the third thing? um I would say a third thing. Okay, and this is something I suppose I've learned after a lot of after a lot of like after a lot of hard times, I would say, is that understand that your work is not your life. It is a part of your life, you know and unless you genuinely get that, you will always, your mental health will always continue to be affected by what you do at work, and how it fares, on a day-to-day basis, on how much you are earning, what success is like for you, what failure is like for you, etc. It took me a long time, even as someone who has started my own company, and which I think is my baby, and so to speak. It even as that, like, it took me a year and a half to really start disassociating and realizing that I cannot let my emotions be driven by what happens at work, because that is a part of my life, that's not my complete life. It's very healthy to have a balance of a life outside of work, which kind of freshens you up for what you do at work as well. It's very important to sort of step away. It's very important to realize that you are not only the work you do. You're a whole person, and it's very important to give different parts of your life, your loved ones, your friendships, your own self, the value and respect, as much value and respect as you give your work.
It's so relevant that you speak of it, because as and this I to see in every generation, even in the young India, so to say, is that we put so much of our self-worth and self-respect into the jobs we do and the careers we are doing, that it is not. Is it still hanging?
No, no, I can hear you.
Oh, okay. So yeah, we put so much of our self-worth into the jobs we do and the careers that we pursue, that if God forbid that goes away, we think
Correct,
that
man.
something of our self-worth has been lost. And I think that's so important to distinguish that. In fact, Ranveer Labadia's podcast, right, Tanmay Bhatt, who was speaking about it, that he built his 10 years ka career, and then one day AIB just closed down and he just couldn't find his self-worth, because the
Yeah,
he always thought that the company was what he.
yeah.
And I mean, I can so feel that as young people we are always told ki, "Arey, पढ़ाई कर ले क्योंकि जॉब चाहिए, क्योंकि वही तेरा लाइफ बनाएगा, वहीं से पगार आएगा, तेरा लाइफ बनेगा.
Correct, correct.
And because your life is so synonymous with your career, I think we should chill down and say that we should also develop as a human being. We should develop our kindness skills, our empathy skills, our social skills, because we are also important as a person.
Yeah, I think it's just about living a wholesome life, yeah.
Mhm.
You know,
Yeah,
and this holds true for any part of your thing. Now, don't only care about yourself. Don't only care
true.
about that one person, your girlfriend, boyfriend, or whoever
True.
you're in a relationship with. Don't only care about your work. You know, balance is just so important, yeah. You know, and balance doesn't mean कि जो ना हाँ मैं 8 बजे ऑफिस से निकलूंगा और मैं वीकेंड ऑफ लूंगा, and that is balance. Balance, sometimes you need to also put in the hours at work, put in on those times, but again, just realize that this is not who you are. The balance is really about knowing that, as you said, like the word that you used, the phrase that your self-worth cannot come from that one thing that you do. It is it is
Hmm.
it is it is it is a function of yourself, not of the work that you do or the success you get at that work.
Awesome. So, a last few questions that I'd like to end this amazing,
Last.
beautiful session with is that, one is, what do you think youth wise people lack in building good careers and good professional life for them that they should focus on?
See, again, I don't want to use a negative word like lack,
Hmm.
because I think,
That
again,
they
every
can
generation,
develop.
yeah, I think every generation has its own challenges, and it has its
Hmm.
own opportunities.
Right.
What I would again, without actually, let me put context to this advice. The
Hmm.
context being the fact that you guys have all lived your life on pretty much social media, right? Like you've literally,
Hmm.
that's been a really big part of your life. As you said,
It
you've been
has.
born into it.
Hmm.
So, and the world on Instagram is a very positive world. It's a world where everybody's just putting the best aspects of their lives. They're only
Hmm.
putting like the successes that they've had, the achievements that they've done, when they look great, when they take the best picture. But that's not life entirely.
Right.
We have, as Indian society, put the pressure on every young person to have this idea of success and to have this idea of happiness, that you
Right.
need to have, कि तुम सक्सेसफुल होगे, तुम हैप्पी होगे क्योंकि तुम सक्सेसफुल होगे, और दोनों बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट चीजें हैं.
Hmm.
And it's very important when you go into work, you also have that measured approach. Not every job that you do, not every day at the job that you do, not every part of your life can be awesome. Not every one of it leads to enormous success. Not everything is going to make you happy, and that's okay. Do
Right.
not get so sad and so upset and so disoriented, with the first time you kind of face this. And if you face it,
Right.
of course, if you face toxic culture, if you repeatedly face something terrible, yes, look out and do something different. But
Right.
you cannot have that Instagram perfect
Hmm.
life
Perfect. Hmm.
that Instagram has built for you, or like a generation of millennials have shown you and told you that अरे सब अच्छा ही होता है. ऐसा नहीं है. Prepare for failure, prepare for unhappiness, prepare for averageness.
Hmm.
It's because it's those times that will
Well
make
said.
you appreciate all the other times, a lot more. So don't lose hope so quickly, and yeah, just be a little more resilient. And I think you'll find yourself, the more measured you are, you'll actually find yourself being more peaceful or content, if not happy.
Awesome, awesome. I mean, amazingly said. And I think it should be focused on so much more. That, I mean, it's just amazing. Anyways, I think we have had amazing, fruitful session. And before we go to the last, so to say, cliched question of it, I'd like to thank you for your time, sir. Has been something which I've looked up to really closely. Growing, and the content that you make is inspiring for young creators like me who want to create something like that. So, I mean, you know what? I have actually two questions for you. Is one is, where do you see Yuvaa going? What do you think is you are trying to achieve with Yuvaa, and where do you see the company in 5-10 years? Uh, and I mean, with that being said, thank you so much for being so generous with your time, and thank you for being on the show.
No, I want to say that, I mean, the biggest compliment that I can give reason that I've given this amount of time is because you have been asking such amazing questions, man. You've been
Hmm.
asking such lovely questions. You
Thank you,
have a
sir.
good sorted head on your shoulders. You have obviously done your research, and you care about this podcast. And I always like,
Right,
मैं एक घंटा सोच के आया था, but मैं already almost
hmm.
2 घंटे दे रहा हूँ.
Right, right.
Even though like there are 10 50 20 messages that I have to answer after
So
this.
sorry for that.
No, that's okay, man. But as I said, I think I really appreciate the effort that you put in this interview. And the easiest way to get me to spend time with someone is to show that, again, as I said, if you care about what you do, right? And you are kind and compassionate as well, from what I
Hmm.
understand. So great, you have already tick marked all the things that
Thank
I
you
was
so much.
giving as advice. No, it's been lovely talking to you. Yuva, again, the goals for Yuva are for me. I mean, I have a lot of obviously targets and material goals. But I always, for me, it's the philosophical goal that matters more than anything else. How how many young people are we helping be less lonely?
Wow.
How many young people are we having an impact in? How many, if and again, it's not a function of like, okay, मैंने 1 crore young लोगों का की life बदल दी. That's not really what I'm trying to say. But genuinely, it's like, how do you make sure that we are doing our very best to uplift the lives of young people in our country, and make them feel heard, make them feel listened to, make them feel that they matter, that their lives matter, their opinions matter, their thoughts matter, and as human beings, they matter. And I think if as long as we can do that with whatever we do, and I have some very exciting plans. I just hope that, let's see how they work out. But yeah, philosophically, that's really always going to be the goal.
Awesome. So you've been also associated with the Gates Foundation, and I mean that's an organization I very closely feel about. So you want to share what you've been doing there and how you've been associated with them?
So, long story short, the Gates Foundation has started a community of emerging leaders called goalkeepers,
Right.
which culminates into an annual event that happens in New York. Obviously, this year we won't have
Hmm.
it, but it's been happening for the last 3 years now, 3 to 4 years, where emerging leaders from across the world, sorry, meet and figure out how do we accelerate the sustainable development goals, which kind of include everything from uplifting
Hmm.
people out of poverty and hunger, to making sure there is equality and equal education for all.
Hmm.
And I have had the great honor and great privilege of being on the advisory board of goalkeepers.
Wow.
It it's a long story of how that happened, but that's for another day, I suppose.
Yeah, sure,
But
sure.
I'm really, really, every day that I've spent on in the meetings that we have had as part of the advisory board, it just fills me with so much hope for the world, because my fellow board members are also all young emerging leaders who from in different parts of the world, who are doing phenomenal work in their lives, who are genuinely creating impact in the work that they do. And it is so inspiring to be just in a room. Like, I've always felt that if you're the smartest person in the room, you're the wrong room. And
Wrong.
when I'm yeah
I
when I'm
agree.
in when I'm in when I'm work when I'm in any meeting or any session in the Gates Foundation, I'm definitely the least smart person there. And it just, like, and I love that, because uh
Yeah,
you
you
know
grow
um
so much.
yeah, because I learn so much, I grow so much,
True.
and I try to offer and contribute whatever little I can.
Hmm.
But it's not even about smart. I think, just they are just enormously impactful people. And I derive such great meaning for my own life, being part of that. But yeah, I think there's some we're
Awesome.
just trying overall we're trying to create a community of young leaders from across the world who would work together in making the world a better place. And yeah, as I said, I'm really fortunate to be involved intimately in that.
Awesome, so awesome. So I don't wish to end this. I mean, I'd pick your brains for next 24 hours if it might be. And
Mhm.
I hope you had a lot of fun as well. and I hope to see you again on the show sometime. But to end the session with, I'd like to ask you, in this very amazing, fruitful journey of yours in life, in entrepreneurship, in business, in teaching, and all the other amazing careers you have been, what is one thing that you can say that for sure, that for sure?
I know that being kind matters more than being right. Being
Wow.
kind
Yeah.
matters more than being smart. Being kind matters more than being successful.
Right.
Uh, I have found empathy to be a great driving force for my
Mm.
life. And again, empathy. When every time I talk about empathy, I must mention that it's not just to others, but to also yourself. I think that if we lived in a world, or if we can live in a world where we are compassionate and kind to each other, we I mean, like, it would be so much more. I mean, such a beautiful world that we really get to live. And if at a regular basis we are kind to each other, so that's been the driving philosophy of my life. I have felt that it kind of gives you great joy when you are there for others, and when you're also there for yourself. But I think there's enough anger, enough outrage, enough assholes in the world, you know, and really, I think the counter, the counter to it is just a world which really believes in the essential, uh, uh, like in essential compassion, uh, towards perspectives and people and outlooks. Um, and yeah, I think that's really shaped me a lot, and I want to continue. Like, if there's one thing that I would, before I die, if people would say about me, I would just have a happy death, is if they would say that, okay, Nikhil was kind. That's it.
Wow.
That's I'd be very happy if that was
Wow.
how they spoke about me.
Amazing, 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 sir. I mean, I feel so glad that we were able to do this, and I mean, that's one positive thing that has come out of this virus. That I don't know when we would have been able to schedule this otherwise, with your whole traveling schedule. But I am so happy that we did this, and thank you so much for doing this, sir. Thank you so much.
No,
Thank
I
you so much for
really
being on.
enjoyed this, man. I genuinely enormously enjoyed this.
Awesome,
You
sir.
are thank you so much for your time and for your great questions. And
Awesome, sir.
yeah, you've been super kind to me as well. So like, thank
Thank
you
you,
for
sir.
that.
It was a
And thank you
pleasure.
to Ajinkya, who has silently been recording the whole thing, hasn't spoken much, and is the brave, production crew,
Yeah.
to the face that you are. But thank you, guys. It was such a, I really had a good time, speaking to you.
Thank you,
Thank you so
sir.
much.
Thank you.
Best of
Thank
luck,
you.
man. Best of luck.
Yeah. Hey guys, I hope you liked that interview. When we were starting the Juvenile, this were the type of conversations that we were planning to have, and I'm so glad that Nikhil's agreed to do this, and we had this amazing conversation. If you did like it, then you know the drill. Check out our website, which is now live www.thejuvenilemedia.in. You'll find new kind of blogs there, new kind of videos there. Do check it out. Like, share, comment, and all of that. Till time we meet again, stay healthy, stay awesome, do some awesome stuff. Remember that you're one of your kind. Live a kick-ass life and be kind to one another. And on that note, farewell, mates.
जय हिंद भी बोल देता.
This is Nikhil Taneja. I am the CEO and co-founder of Yuvaa, and I'm so glad to be on the Juvenile. I think it's a fabulous platform, and you are missing out if you're not liking, sharing, and subscribing to it. Do it right now. Do it.